Number 8. Larry D. Matthews. In October of 2016, a Georgia shoplifter was tasered, pepper sprayed, and eventually gunned down following an altercation with a Bibb County deputy in Mason. Larry D. Matthews, age 55, had been accused of stealing several items, believed to have included a few Bic lighters and a pack of ramen noodles. From a family dollar store, he was confronted by Deputy Greg Usery, who gave him several verbal warnings. Matthews, a man reported as having had a lengthy criminal record, attempted to fight Usery. He was first shot with a taser, but he pulled the prongs out and continued charging the deputy. The latter then deployed his pepper spray, but it didn't stop Matthews, who reached for the can. Usery then used his service weapon to fatally shoot Matthews. Several witnesses testified in the aftermath, and an examination of the incident by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation determined that Usery wouldn't face any criminal charges. Additionally, an autopsy revealed the presence of alcohol and crack cocaine in Matthews' system. Number 7. Richard Lee Richards. In late November of 2021, harrowing footage began circulating across media outlets of a suspected shoplifter in a mobility scooter that was gunned down by an off-duty Arizona police officer working as a Walmart security guard. 61-year-old Richard Lee Richards was suspected of stealing a toolbox from a Tucson branch of the retail corporation. At about 6 p.m., an employee alerted security guard Ryan Remington, who was also a 4-year member of the Tucson police force. According to a statement released by local authorities, Remington confronted Richards in the parking lot, asking to see his receipt. In the moments that followed, the latter allegedly brandished a knife and told the security guard, "Here's your receipt." As reported by another Walmart employee who was accompanying Remington at the time, Richards had been repeatedly asked to stop and surrender the blade, which he refused to do even after a second officer had arrived at the scene. Instead, he continued circulating through the parking lot and tried to enter a Lowe's. It was at that point that Remington opened fire. As indicated by his body cam footage, he shot Richards 9 times in the back, causing him to slump over in his mobility scooter before dropping to the pavement. He then proceeded to handcuff the unresponsive man and asked for medical support. Richards was pronounced dead at the scene a short time later. Remington believed his actions, which Tucson Mayor Regina Romero described as unconscionable and indefensible, had been justified. He was fired from the police force in early January of 2022, and the shooting was reviewed by the Pima County Attorney's Office to determine if Remington would be criminally charged. Number 6. Aaron Bishop. In 2009, a man who'd reportedly stolen a bottle of perfume at the Quadrant Shopping Centre in Swansea, Wales, died following the forceful intervention of a security guard. 22-year-old Aaron Bishop was seen on CCTV at a Debenhams store shoplifting a bottle of dupe priced at around $50. Bishop had been a guardsman at Windsor Castle and a soldier with the Welsh Guard who'd reportedly served in Belize, Iraq, Northern Ireland, and Sierra Leone. Once the theft was discovered, he was chased and pinned to the ground by 4 security guards. The events that followed have known several versions, but by the time police had arrived at the scene, Bishop was already dead. Prosecutors would later argue that one of the guards, 25-year-old Sam Borden, had used excessive force and dangerous submission maneuvers in subduing Bishop. Shoppers would report hearing the former soldier begging for help and shouting that he couldn't breathe. One witness told investigators that Bishop had turned blue and was frothing at the mouth. When the bystander pointed to the security guard that Bishop was in distress, he'd allegedly replied, "He can breathe because he is talking." During Borden's manslaughter trial, he maintained that he'd been doing his job and denied applying pressure to the victim's neck. He stated that because Bishop was shouting, struggling, and behaving aggressively, he'd interpreted his claims of not being able to breathe as an attempt to trick the security guards. Borden was ultimately cleared of manslaughter in 2010 by a Swansea Crown Court jury. Number 5. Eva Pena. An off-duty police officer was arrested in Westchester County, New York, in 2019 after she was caught trying to walk away with hundreds of dollars worth of merchandise from a department store. 37-year-old Eva Pena was stopped by a loss prevention officer from leaving a Macy's in Yonkers with several items in her possession. They included a pair of Tommy Hilfiger pants, a beaded sweater, a Guess lace dress, and 3 other Guess items. Surveillance cameras had captured Pena removing the tags from the merchandise, valued at roughly $360, and then stuffing it into her purse. The authorities were alerted and she was taken into custody on charges of petite larceny. Pena, an officer in Bronx public housing, had made close to $108,000 in 2018, according to the non-profit Empire Center. She had previously held a position as an integrity control officer, but the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau reassigned her, citing trouble in her own past, but didn't elaborate on the nature of said trouble. On Pena's behalf, her private lawyer pleaded not guilty to the charges stemming from the shoplifting incident during her initial court appearance. Number 4. Elisa Zabraski. A shoplifter went viral in December of 2018 after her mugshot showing her extensive facial tattoos was released online. Law enforcement was called to a Walmart in Boardman Township, Ohio, and found that 27-year-old Elisa Zabraski had been caught stealing a bag. Officers searched her purse and discovered a hypodermic needle, an orange pill, and a white rock-like substance. Zabraski admitted that the drugs were a Suboxone pill and methamphetamine. She was charged with theft as well as drug possession and taken to Mahoning County Jail for processing. Zabraski's consequent viral mugshot would show her extensive facial artwork that featured a spider web stretching across her forehead and a sugar skull design on the eyes, nose, cheeks, and lips, reminiscent of the masks and face paint used during Mexico's Day of the Dead celebrations. Prior to being arrested for shoplifting in November, Zabraski was charged with obstruction of justice following an incident in Austintown. Local police had noticed a Chevrolet Malibu running in the middle of the street at around 4 a.m. and the driver sped off upon being approached by officers. After a short chase, the vehicle turned into a home. A man later identified as Logan Doherty, who sported several face tattoos of his own, ran into the residence while Zabraski waited on the front porch. As members of law enforcement got closer to her, she allegedly told them, "I am not moving, you're going to have to get me." She then started walking towards them, indicating she had a knife, but was arrested without incident. Number 3. Lynn May. Less than a month before she was due to get married, in the summer of 2015, a Walmart manager was killed by a shoplifter in Xianjiang, southern China's Guangdong province. 27-year-old Lynn May confronted a man after he'd been reported of stealing food from the store. According to the Shanghai Morning Post, an undercover security worker had spotted the suspect, only identified by his surname as Li, picking up 2 boxes of snacks on the second floor. He then hid in a corner on the 3rd level and began eating the stolen food. The security guards brought the theft to May's attention and she confronted the suspect, accompanied by several staff members. Li then ran away, prompting the mother of one and the security guards to give chase. He fled to the store's knife department, where he grabbed a blade from a shelf as the group was closing in on him, with May at the front. When she got within range, Li attacked her and cut her throat open with the knife. The woman collapsed and began bleeding profusely, and one of her colleagues wrapped his shirt around her neck in what would ultimately prove to be a futile attempt to stop the blood loss. May was pronounced dead at the scene. The vicious attacker distracted the others enough for Li to escape the store, but he was eventually tracked down and arrested at a nearby village. Today's topic was requested by Shirley Pagan, Richard C., Grey White Rabbit 21, and Sonia Mabea. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Kieran Church. In February of 2017, a shoplifter suffered critical stabbing injuries after the bottles he'd stolen and hidden in his coat were accidentally broken in an altercation with a security guard. 30-year-old Englishman Kieran Church, who also went by the surname Hayes, was homeless and often stole spirits bottles to sell in order to support his drug addiction. On February the 9th, Church was stopped by security guard Jordan Rose from leaving a Sainsbury's in Trowbridge, Wiltshire, with bottles of brandy in his possession. 20-year-old Rose would later report that he wanted to avoid a confrontation as he'd spotted a syringe sticking out of Church's pocket. The latter returned the stolen bottles and was allowed to leave. In the afternoon, Rose was walking to a police station to hand in the surveillance footage from the shoplifting incident. It was at that point that he saw as the security guard Denise Thomas attempt to stop Church from walking away after he'd been spotted shoplifting 2 alcohol bottles from the supermarket. Rose pounced on Church from behind, resulting in both men falling to the ground. As the shoplifter was knocked to the pavement face first, with the security guard on his back, The bottles inside his jacket broke. Glass shard pierced his body, resulted in 3 severe stab wounds. An ambulance was called, but Church ultimately passed away from catastrophic hemorrhage, with the coroner recording a verdict of accidental death. Number 1. Nordstrom shoplifting incident. One of the most massive shoplifting incidents to have recently occurred in the US took place in late November of 2021 at a Nordstrom in Walnut Creek, California. It was a culmination of a string of flash mob robberies to have been reported in the Bay Area throughout 2021. The organized form of theft, theorized to have been coordinated through social media, typically involved groups of masked individuals entering retail shops or convenience stores to steal various goods. A number of police officers commented on the November case reported to have never seen a shoplifting incident take place at such a scale and involve so many suspects. Roughly 80 individuals raided the Broadway Plaza Nordstrom at around 9 p.m. while wearing masks and predominantly dark clothing. Some allegedly used crowbars and hammers to smash through displays. One employee was pepper sprayed and at least 2 others were punched and kicked. The well-planned operation unfolded within a minute before some of the shoplifters made their getaway in vehicles that had their license plates covered. 3 people were arrested at the scene, but the authorities didn't disclose their identities in the immediate aftermath, nor did they mention the total value of the stolen merchandise. Thanks for watching. Would you rather only wear clothes from thrift shops or have to shoplift every new item? Let us know in the comments section below.